Pavilion Road is one of the principal roads south out of the town, and at the city limit associated with bakers, always outside the city walls, because bakers' ovens need fires, and that's dangerous in a town largely built of wood, as London discovered to its cost in 1666, when a baker's shop caught fire in Pudding Lane and burned down half the town. The western aspect of the castle ahead of you now. The great building on the left is the 19th century barracks block, and the other block houses the royal apartments and the banqueting hall and so on. And underneath the right hand one you can see that there are windows piercing the defensive walls below it. These give light to dungeons where in the late 18th century were housed a number of prisoners of war. And if you visit the castle, you can go into the dungeons and see what they got up to. Castle Rock is a volcanic basalt. It's a volcanic jeweller to King James VI of Scotland. He died in 1623 and left money for it. Up to your left, the Esplanade, and they're now starting demolishing the seating for the tattoo which took place last month. Rabbits infest that slope there, but there are none of them coming out to make their bows for us today. Great big church building coming up on your left used to be the Assembly Hall of the Church of Scotland, and it was a parish church. Now it is called the Hub, and it's the headquarters of the Edinburgh Festival Society. A huge spire is the biggest in Scotland, I believe. This is a terribly bumpy corner, so please hang on to your hats and your seats and anything else you need to hang on to. We're coming into the lawn market, and please remembering that I said not to get up if you'll be so kind until we're finally at a halt. But this is the stop for the castle, for the Frisbee Centre, the Tartan Centre, the Outlook Tower, the Camera Obscura, all of which are up behind you, and Mary King's Close. So if you want any of these things, this is the stop to get off.
This is also where Deacon Birdie of the pub
here in Edinburgh, and it's been restored by the National Trust for Scotland, and you can see round it. They open it for visitors. See round it and see what it was like as a 17th century merchant here in Edinburgh. If you look at the upper windows, you'll see only the top parts are glazed. Underneath are wood. They economised. At 10 o'clock at night, these shutters would be opened. Somebody would shout "Guardian Loom," and out they would sling all the rubbish, and I regret to say also all the sewage of the day. There were no drains. There were no sewers. It splattered down onto the road. Bridge, so-called, because it is a viaduct across a very deep, narrow little valley. We'll see it in a moment. Down to the right here at the end of the building site, you'll see Victoria Street, a street of picturesque little shops, winding its way. He kept watch over his master's grave in Greyfriars Churchyard behind him. In a film made about him.
There's one on the wall.
This is chamber, succeeded on the right by the Royal Museum of Scotland, which has a slightly wider remit, not just Scottish stuff, but all sorts of fascinating displays of technology and natural history, and all sorts of other things too. And as you can see from the banners, they have a Picasso exhibition at the moment. In front of facing the main door into the museum, he would allow her come in, buy a cup of coffee and sit in the warmth all day in the winter writing Harry Potter stories. So I reckon this is Harry Potter's birthplace. Up to your right now, you should see it. Cream maybe rather than grey.
Oh yeah, it's changed the story.
This is Sun Bridge. We're going over the Cowgate again. If you look to either side now, you'll see the angle of Aberystwyth. local merchants used to have to bring their weights and measures there to have them checked. And if they were found to be giving short measure, their ear was nailed to the wooden beam of the weighing machine. And if they hadn't pulled free by tea time, somebody came along and cut their ear off so they could go home and have their tea. So it was a very serious business in those days, giving short measure in Edinburgh. Logie Baird's bar to your right there commemorates John Logie Baird, who invented television in a workshop over behind the church to your left there. And this is us back about to turn onto the Royal Mile again. The Royal Mile is a bit like the spine of the old town. If you think of a fish's skeleton with the head at the castle, the tail at the palace, the Royal Mile is like the spine of the fish street. Ahead of us, on the left, you can see one of the a building jutting out from the line of the others. This is John Knox's house. John Knox was Minister of St Giles and the leader of the Protestant Reformation in Scotland in 1560. As far as we know, he never lived in this house, but it would have certainly been here in his time. And they have displays about telling his life story and whatnot. The lights at which we're now stopping are on the site of what used to be called the Netherbow Court. The buildings were 11 stories high, 14 stories high. The crowding must have been just simply very bad indeed. That's why they built the new town in 2004. Its architect was a Spaniard from Barcelona, a man called Enrique Morales, who alas died before his project was as much as 2 years on the go. He left behind him a lot of doodles and stretches which his successor architect struggled to for Margaret Tudor, his English queen. And to your left there, the Queen's Gallery, houses part of the Royal Collection of Art. And we're working our way around the grounds of the I'm hoping you're going to find a seat soon, man. You're not very safe there. To your left, you can get a glimpse of the palace forecourt. Game park. It's got 3 hills, 3 lochs, 5 miles of roads, and lots of lovely green space in the middle of town. It's a lovely place. If you were to go over the Salisbury Crags, which is the hill just beside us here on the bus, you come into a little valley, euphoniously called Hunter's Bog. But on the left there, you can see a path at the foot of the cliffy bit at the top. I actually recommend you speak to Miro, our driver, because our buses can give you a discount of nearly £1.50 on the ordinary adult admission price. As we come round to the left, round the forecourt here, you can see some irregularly shaped stone slabs which represent the tectonic plates that underlie Scotland. There's splendid hats down there, huh?
Just the way
Hoe bij uit die? Dat niet zo.
The Parliament buildings as a whole were budgeted to cost us 40 million, but ended up costing us 440 million. So bang goes the myth of Scottish thrift. Or if you look over the walls, if you're on top of the bus, you get a glimpse into the formal garden. 822 feet above sea level, a former volcano, Winnie Hill to the left, Salisbury Crags to the right.
You can walk, it's an easy walk.
Main road to London in days gone by. And you may remember that Dr. Samuel Johnson, the 18th century pundit, said that the fairest sight a Scotsman ever sees is the road to London. He was, of course, an Englishman. He also was author of the very first English dictionary, in which he defined oaks as a grain which in England is usually given to horses, but in Scotland supports the people that they make porridge of. You can see we have a higher opinion of Scotland than the Scots. Sir Walter Scott, King Edward VII, and just to add a touch of class, Ronnie Corbett of the two Ronnies. Skyline on the skyline over to your left there, behind the cranes, you can see a dome, which is on top of the old part of the university. We were beside it in spiky sort of signpost pillar things there. They give you information there in a number of different languages, so it's a useful place to remember. To build extravagant headquarters buildings. And the result tiles, which somebody writing in the 1950s didn't like. He said, St Andrews Square is a disgraceful mess. Column. This is the Melville column. On top of it is Henry Dundas, first Viscount Melville, who was Lord Advocate in Scotland, top government job in Scotland, at the end of the era up there, but I'm not sure which they are.
That's one of the principal corporate head.
He has a week-long book sale for Christian Aid, and over the past 33 years it's raised a total of millions for that very worthy cause. In the middle of the road here, we're going to turn right, we're going to come around the statue of George IV, who visited Scotland in 1822, the first reigning monarch to do so in 175 years.
The 5th or 4th now.
So they made a big fuss of him when he came here.
The other side.
Down ahead of us now you get a view of the waters of the Firth of Forth and the hills of the Kingdom of Fife behind them. And if you've been around Edinburgh for a little while, you know the truth of the Scots saying, if you can see the hills it's going to rain, and if you can't it's raining. This is door number 6 on the barn door on your right. And further along on the right, a red door number 17 was the family home of Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote Treasure Island, Child's Garden Horses, Triana, Kidnapped, Travels of the Donkey, all sorts of wonderful yarns he wrote. The top floor of number 17 was his nursery, and it looked out, the trees and the gardens to our left wouldn't be anything like as big then as they are now. And there was a cow pond there, and it said that this cow pond gave him the idea for Treasure Island. I don't quite get the connection myself, but that's the story anyway. Coming back up again to recross Queen Street, and as we do this time, of income tax to pay for that war. He said it was a temporary impost, promises. We lost the war and we are still paying the income tax. The building on your these were a gift of the people of France to the people of Scotland in token of the Old Alliance. Beautiful chandeliers. George IV, we're coming back to the middle of the road again. He looks rather splendid on his plinth there, but in real life he was 5'2". That one of her famous sayings was, "We are not amused." And I bet she's not amused by what she's having to sit on top of at the moment. Turning now onto the mound, an artificial causeway between the old and new towns, built up of 1.5 million cartloads of stone and rubble from the building of the new town. You see the bus stop on your left outside the National Gallery. There it is now. Is for a free gallery shuttle, which every 2/4 of the mile takes you around these two galleries here, the one over in Queen Street that I pointed out to you, and two over to the northwest, one of which has a big Picasso exhibition at the moment. Twin towers up to your right are of New College, the School of Divinity of Edinburgh University. Big building up to your right now, headquarters of the Halifax Bank of Scotland, houses a museum of banking, where you can,